Today, we're going to talk about why your manifestations aren't working, and more importantly, how you can fix it fast by tapping into something called identity shifting. We're going to go into the quantum principles that feed into identity shifting and how they allow you to change your reality once and for all. So, go grab your notebook, take some notes, bring your open mind because we're going to dive deep. If you've been doing the affirmations, visualizing every night, journaling till your hand cramps, and still nothing's changing, this video is going to be for you. Over the past decade or so, I have managed to bring in new relationships. I've managed to triple my income, all by constant identity shifting. And when I discovered that this was at the root of whether or not my manifestation techniques were working, it was a game changer. So let's get honest. The reason why our manifestations don't work, it doesn't have anything to do with the universe ignoring us. It's not a shot in the dark. It's not a roll of the dice. It has everything to do with identity. For example, you can't manifest wealth or draw wealth to you if you don't match its frequency. If you're trying to manifest wealth from the identity of someone who believes that they're always broke, money is never going to come to you because your fundamental belief is that it doesn't belong with you because of who you believe you are. You can't manifest love from the identity of someone who doesn't feel lovable. If you have preconceived notions about what you need to look like, what you need to talk like, what you need to act like in order for someone to love you, and you don't match your beliefs about what that should be, you have to become the version of you who already has it. And that's what identity shifting is at its core. This doesn't necessarily have to mean that you change any of your behaviors, at least not intentionally. It has more to do with how you perceive yourself, whether or not you are aligned with what it is that you're trying to bring into your life. Here's the science. So in quantum physics, reality is not a fixed thing. And that's why I think it's funny when we talk about manifesting as though it's this thing that we have to turn on and off. Truly, it's something that we're always doing. Our very existence in the 3D depends on us constantly in every single millisecond pulling together our reality based on our beliefs. So the past and the future don't actually exist. They only exist in our minds, and we draw upon them. If you imagine a person standing and holding two strings, one in each hand, right? The one on the left is their perceived past, and the one on the right is their perceived future. And everything about them in that present moment is a reflection of what they believe about those two strings that they're holding. But imagine that there are an infinite number of other strings you could hold on to pull together your reality. Identity shifting means that you re-examine your past, reconstruct it, and re-examine what you believe your future could be and reconstruct that so that you have a new view of who you are in the present moment. So we said reality isn't a fixed thing. It's something that's held together by you constantly manifesting and keeping it together in every single second. Reality exists as infinite possibilities until we choose to observe them. All we have is the present moment. So our observation, or more precisely, our expectation, collapses a wave into a particle. So those strings represent waves, right? They're not actually with you in the moment. They're just things, energies that you hold, beliefs that you hold. When you choose different waves, different frequencies, you draw new particles into your present moment. In other words, you pull a version of reality into form based on that dominant belief system about your past and about your future. The fastest way to get back to your God self is to focus on the present moment, to draw your attention into all of your senses, to remember that you cosmically chose to enter into your avatar that you're currently in order to experience this moment, and that you're actually okay and eternal. Your identity is actually a frequency that you've projected into this experience. It's an energetic signature that you broadcast into the quantum field. If you want to switch realities, you have to switch identities. And here are some examples, a couple of examples of people we're all familiar with who used this technique successfully. So one example is Jim Carrey. He talks about writing himself a $10 million check before he was famous and believing deeply that it was already done. His belief wasn't just blind faith. It was him stepping into the identity of someone who was already successful. So him writing himself that check in his future allowed him to tap into a new frequency of someone that deserves the $10 million. He tapped into the frequency of someone who was already successful. In his energy field, he already had the $10 million. And look at what that's turned into over the course of his career. Then there's Lady Gaga.
And this was a way for me to create a character. I always wanted to be an actress before I wanted to be a singer. So I created a character, and I have been creating characters, I think, with each album I've made over the years so that I could act in a way. And when I did this, it gave me wings to fly. It just felt like a superhero cape. And, that's really the big difference between me and Allie, is that I really believed in myself. I really was like, I'm going to bang down every door and I am going to get every gig that I can get so that I can sing my heart out all over this town, and I am going to make it as a singer and as a musician.
So long before her fame, she embodied the persona of a superstar. That level of embodiment is identity shifting in action. So we have lots of examples, big people that we see on the screen, but there are people like this in everyday life. Sometimes you can look at a person and wonder how they managed with the same 24 hours in the day that you have to accomplish what they've accomplished, or how they look like that and have a partner who loves them so much. Not to be shady, but sometimes we look at people and wonder how they're able to pull certain things off. And it's truly because of who they believe that they are deeply and truly. So these people aren't faking it. They're aligning their inner frequency with the version of reality that they want, and infinite possibilities exist. If that triggers you, if hearing those words from me brings up some limiting beliefs that you have, like if you want to push that away, I encourage you to journal about it and understand what your deep beliefs are and whether or not they're serving you and whether or not they're your only option, because truly the possibilities are endless. Okay, so now let's talk about how you actually shift your identity. And there's 4 steps, right? Like I just mentioned, the first step is awareness. So identifying those old beliefs, identifying that old identity that you're living in, separating what you want to hold on to versus what you need to let go in order to bring in what it is that you desire. So write it out. What I usually do is take my Create Your Life journal, which you can find in the link in this video, and I draw a line down the middle of the page. On the left side, I write down what I've been ruminating about or the limiting beliefs. And then on the right side, I write in the belief that would better serve me. Once I have the beliefs that would better serve me on the right, I get rid of the entire left side of the page, whether I rip it out and throw it away or mark it up so that I can't see the words anymore. And my affirmations become those new beliefs. And if I feel resistance around those, then I just keep asking myself questions until I get to the bottom of what the limiting belief is, and I get to a place where I can release it and let it go. The second step after awareness is defining your future self. So part of that is writing out those new beliefs. But what would you be doing if you already had the things that you're after? How would you speak? How would you dress? How would you move? How would you think? Bring in all 5 senses. This is always fun, right? So if I'm wanting to live a luxury lifestyle, a lifestyle full of relaxation and time freedom, what would I smell like? Like, what kind of perfume would I be wearing? How would I be dressing? How would I be spending my time during the day? And I sit and I meditate and I bring in all 5 senses. My eyesight, so I'm envisioning what that would be like. I am imagining the smells. I'm imagining how things would feel. Maybe I'd be wearing silk or a cashmere sweater, something that doesn't say hard work, hard labor. And so defining your future self helps you move into that frequency that you're looking to embody. The third step is to embody it daily. So I find that the best way to do this is starting your day with visualizing those things. Recently, I tried a new technique where, I go on TikTok admittedly too much during the day. And there's certain videos that pop up and I put it in a folder that I call Manifest It. So it's things that I see that excite me that I want to bring into my life. So recently I went to that folder and I voice recorded a lot of those videos. And now every morning when I'm taking my morning walk, I just listen back to that audio. And it puts me in that frequency at the beginning of the day, the very beginning of the day, and it sets the tone for the day. And I find that when I do that, it changes how I perceive anything that comes up for the rest of the day. So I may still be dealing with my old identity for the rest of the day, but I also have access to those new frequencies because I spent the first part of my day aligning my energy with what I desire versus any limiting beliefs or frustrations I'm experiencing. So that daily embodiment starts with small habits, right? That whole process takes me about 15 minutes in the morning. And I identify as that new person. So even if I have to show up to the same life that I had before I meditated on these things, I show up in my old life as the new person, and my life doesn't have a choice but to change and reflect back to me that new person that I've become. So in that new embodiment, I even make decisions from that new identity. So for example, if I'm feeling extremely stressed at work, things have been really overwhelming, I may have been identifying as somebody who doesn't have enough time, somebody who doesn't have enough energy to take care of what I need to take care of. But when I do this meditation at the beginning of the day, one of my affirmations is I'm always right on time. I always have more than enough time to do everything I need to do. So if I identified with that new person and then I go into my busy, hectic job, I make decisions as that new person. So that new person, would she take on extra responsibilities? No, because she knows she needs to leave space and time to relax. Would that new person agree to more travel for work? No, she wouldn't. So you begin to make decisions from your new identity too. And that's part of that daily embodiment. Now, I'm not saying be irresponsible. So for example, if you're manifesting wealth, I'm not saying go out and max out your credit card. But one thing that I personally do is every time I spend money that I already have to spend, like even if I'm buying groceries or something for my kids, I have the affirmation, I'm embodying the affirmation that I always have 10 times more money than I know how to spend. So if I'm spending it, that 10 times more is coming in one way or another. So I don't have anxiety around spending the money that I already have, and therefore more and more comes in. I can't outspend the identity that I've created around my abundance and my wealth. So the fourth step is bridge work. So using scripting, imaginal acts, and revision techniques to reinforce the identity until it's completely locked in. So a lot of my affirmations that I've used to transform my life, I've been using for over a decade. And so they're automatic thoughts at this point. But when you first try to bring in a new reality, you have to do repetition in order to get it deep in your subconscious mind. And the key to this is that it never ends, right? Part of the fun of this experience is that you're constantly evolving. So as you step into new identities, you start to experience new things, and then you discover more that you want to bring in, more changes you want to make to your identity. And so anytime you have a new wave of changes that you want to make, you've got to go through this bridge work. You've got to bridge the gap between your current beliefs and the new beliefs that you need to have around who you are, until your subconscious actually locks it in. So here's the mind-blowing part. Your current reality is not just something that you're observing, right? It's actually a projection. Imagine, I'm telling my age now, but a lot of times in school when I was younger, the teacher would use something called a projector. So she would put a clear sheet, I can't remember what it's called, on the projector and then project it onto the wall. So we were seeing it on the wall, but it was being projected from the projector. It wasn't being projected from the wall. Similarly, our vision, what we're seeing in our reality is a projection outward from us. And so any change we want to make, like if I were to go and look at that projection against the wall and try to change it there, nothing would happen. I would just mess up the wall, right? But the same image would be there. If I wanted to make a change, I would have to change what I put on the projector or what I put in the projector. So if we want to change our reality, there's nothing that we can do about what's outside of us. The projection is coming from inside. So we can do all of the superficial things that we want. We can try to control other people's behavior. We can lash out against what we believe are the systems that are keeping us down. We can cry, we can moan. But until we change our inner belief system, until we change our identity, nothing about the external reality is going to change. And that's why so many of us experience repeating cycles so often. So, like a movie screen, your life is showing you what is playing in your subconscious mind. When you change the reel, when you switch the movie, which is your identity and your beliefs, your life will change. So the outside world is not the cause, it's actually the effect. So if your manifestations feel stuck, here's the shortcut. Stop trying to get something out there to change. Stop trying to expect a person's behavior to change or a system to change or a situation to change. Start changing the version of you who is experiencing it. Start changing the way you move through your experience, the decisions you make, how you view yourself, how you imagine yourself moving through life. And every time you catch yourself acting from your old story, pause. Pause in the present moment. Remember at the beginning, we talked about mindfulness, drawing yourself into the present moment. Pause. Remember who you are. Remember that you're a projection of the overall consciousness and that you're here having an experience that you have more agency over than you believe. And when you pause, choose again. When you're acting from your old story, pause and choose again. That is a quantum shift in real time. And the actions that you take as a result of operating in your new identity are what shift you to your new reality. So if you got value from this, please hit that like button. Also, I have in the link in the description box a lot of resources that I've used in my past that have worked for me. Drop a comment below telling me what your future self looks like. What is one thing you're going to change about who you believe you are and what reality you want to step into starting today. And if you want more content on manifestation, mindset, and mastering your energy, don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, remember, you are not just a character in the movie of your life. You are the director, the writer, the actor, and the actual light that projects out to show you your own reality. So create something powerful.